There is so much misinformation out there about whether you should pick dispersed or concentrated that I'm gonna clear it up once and for all with tests. This will be as close to reality as possible with actual explanations instead of just parroting, "Oh, dispersed is for the early game, concentrated is much better." But first, let's back up a little bit. The difference between concentrated and dispersed are that concentrated gives you more factory output, which only affects how much military factories produce. It does not affect civilian or dockyard output. Dispersed, on the other hand, gives you more production efficiency retention, production efficiency base, and less factory bomb vulnerability. The latter one can be useful, but it's a weird stat to evaluate since you have to lose for it to be useful, so I'm just gonna ignore it. Like, if you want to, it's a nice little bonus. Production efficiency base means any additional mill factory we assign after we get this tech will be more efficient from the get-go. And the retention applies once we switch the factory from an existing production to another production. This means that concentrated will outscale in the late game, but it's also stronger before you get any new tech or new factories. Yapping about the test setup is kinda boring, so I moved it into an unlisted video in the doobly-doo, but to keep it quick, I evaluated until 1941, since this is where your most important tech comes in. Sure, you can use the 1942 gun, the medium tank, the fighters and all that, but all of this tech comes in so late that the game should be decided by then. In multiplayer and many single player games, you don't even unlock these techs unless you are someone who plays A to C World Conquest because you thought it would be funny. Once again, the entire sheet is in the description, so you can check it out at your own time. On the left, we have all of the stats for concentrated, in the middle we have all of the stats for dispersed, and on the right we have the difference between concentrated and dispersed. And then we also have a couple of neat little graphs, as well as down here something that we'll get to in a minute. In the test results, we can see that concentrated is having a head start, and that is actually fairly simple. By the time that we unlock dispersed in late 1936, we don't actually benefit from any of the things that dispersed gives. Now, yes, we do get the 10% factory output, but concentrated gives us the same plus another 5% factory output on top of that. And for the beginning, the production efficiency retention and base obviously don't matter, since the production lines do not change. One thing I found very important for these tests is to have an economy that's constantly building up, you know, to simulate an actual growing economy instead of just, okay, yeah, there we go, concentrated wins, because we're not actually making use of the dispersed buffs. No, we're actually building factories the entire time here, and despite that, the production base doesn't even compare. Like, we can see up until 1939, where we unlock gun free, we have 10% more guns over dispersed. And one thing that I also want to mention here, this is where the graph down here comes in. Honestly, don't pay too much attention to it. This was super sloppy. I didn't record the stockpiles properly. The factory count was a bit messed up. What we can see here, because I used the right side of the MIOs where you lose production efficiency, is that there is a very strange drop for concentrated, because concentrated is leading with the guns here, and then suddenly we have fewer guns in concentrated, and this just drops farther and farther until at some point it jumps up again because, and here is the kicker, concentrated at this point got the MIO upgrade where you lose the production efficiency, and then dispersed got the upgrade here. So it did take dispersed longer to get these upgrades, which just is a nice little buff for concentrated, because with the higher factory output you will produce more equipment, which means you can get more funds into your MIOs, which means you can get upgrades earlier. This can be super important for example, planes, where you just get 30% more stats because the plane MIOs are busted for some reason. Let's get back to the non-scuff tests. As we can see, the difference is just getting larger and larger until we unlock gun free. And so far, this is the only time in the game where we can make an argument for dispersed. Dispersed in this 7-month period does not catch up. You do not create more guns, but you create more of the higher quality guns, which could matter. I would still rather have more guns than better guns, but if you can only field 2 divisions, then I guess dispersed will be better because you will have your better equipment earlier. And we can see that the stockpile difference is getting lower and lower until January 1940, where it evens out, and then in February 1940 we produce more guns again with concentrated. Concentrated still has few of the higher quality guns, but you are getting more daily guns. During this about 1 year period, and only this period, dispersed is better. Asterisk. And here's the kicker. In a real game, you would also have AA, you would have planes, you would have tanks, you would have trucks, you would have artillery, and all of this would, of course, also make dispersed a little bit better. But I mean, you can still see after about a year, you will still catch up with concentrated. In this case, why would you ever pick dispersed? If you're a new player, you're lazy, or for a very few specific nations, you will pick dispersed. I can't outline every nation here, but you should just think, when do you unlock the majority of your factories, and then plan from there. Don't mind this. For this instance, there are only 2 nations where in base game I would tell you to consider dispersed with. Number 1 would be the US. Just because the US has the Great Depression, it can be beneficial. Once you get rid of the Great Depression, you unlock a ton of your factories. It can be beneficial to get dispersed there because once again, you unlock so many factories. And similarly with the USSR, where in the first couple of years, you usually will sieve greed and build up a little bit. And then later on, you know, before the war starts, you will start producing military factories. I usually still pick Concentrated with those two, but that's a relatively good example because these two nations go into the war relatively late. So they do want to make the most of their factories, and the base production efficiency can help you there. For dispersed, you just have to know your game plan. When do you unlock your factories and what type of war will you go for? If you're going for total war, total extinction type of deal, then dispersed isn't gonna help you that much unless it helps you conquer very early. From an ahistorical perspective, I can also make a decent argument for the Bosporus nations, since, you know, they will get all of their cores. They will core 7 different nations in like 1941, 1942, where World War II is already halfway finished. So in these cases, these are prime examples of dispersed nations, simply because, like, what the fuck am I gonna do with 11 factories? Concentrated isn't gonna help me here, but if I get the 50 factories that Turkey has and then 50 factories from over here, that will actually help me with dispersed. It pretty much depends on how quickly you want to conquer once you unlock the factories. In conclusion, the difference is noticeable, but if you're new to the game or you just tend to forget about your logistics and oh my god, we're missing 3,000 guns suddenly, then there's no shame in picking dispersed. This is one thing that dispersed does. It gives you the flexibility in case you fuck up. The most important part here is you have to consider when do you need your factories. Because keep in mind, guns now are much more important than guns later. If I break your kneecaps today and tomorrow you get a gun, that's not gonna bring your kneecaps back. Same as it's not gonna give your factories back if I've already conquered them with Concentrated. But if you like to live fast, come fast and die fast, then Concentrated is for you. It has the big benefit of giving you more guns early on in the game and of course also later on in the game. Oh wow, Vijo, this was so informative. I should definitely subscribe. And you heard that right, I'm doing an A to C World Conquest series. If you're interested, I played Afghanistan here and I've already lost my mind.